Blue eyes. Let's get one thing straight. Blue eyes are a lie. A beautiful, hypnotic, multi-million-dollar lie. If you were to dissect a blue eye, which you absolutely should not do, you wouldn't find a single speck of blue pigment, not one molecule. What you're seeing isn't color, it's physics. It's the sky trapped in a sphere of collagen. The front layer of your iris, the stroma, is a translucent web of colorless collagen fibers. In people with blue eyes, this layer has almost no melanin, the pigment that gives color to our hair and skin. When light enters an eye this empty, it behaves like it does in the atmosphere. The longer wavelengths of light, the reds, oranges, and yellows, pass straight through and are absorbed by the back layer of the iris. But the shorter, bluer wavelengths don't make it. They hit the chaotic mess of collagen fibers and scatter wildly, a phenomenon called the Tyndall effect. The only color that bounces back out at you is blue. Your eyes are colorless voids that just happen to be shaped in a way that perfectly reflects the color of the sky. It's a structural color, an illusion engineered by light itself. But here's where the illusion gets truly bizarre. Every single person on this planet with blue eyes is related. They are all descendants of one single human who lived somewhere around the Black Sea between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago. Before this one individual, every human had brown eyes. But this person was born with a genetic glitch, a mutation not in the gene responsible for melanin production, OCA2, but in a nearby gene called HERC2. Think of OCA2 as a factory that pumps out brown pigment. The HERC2 gene is the switch that controls the factory's output. This one mutation effectively jammed the HERC2 switch into the low position, drastically cutting the supply of melanin to the irises. It didn't turn the factory off entirely, which would cause albinism, but it throttled the production down to almost nothing. This single genetic typo was so specific and so stable that it's been passed down, perfectly preserved through hundreds of generations. From one person, a new human blueprint was born, spreading across Europe and then the world. But why did it survive? A mutation that makes your eyes more sensitive to harsh sunlight doesn't exactly scream survival of the fittest. One theory is sexual selection. In a world of exclusively brown-eyed people, a person with sparkling blue eyes would have been exotic, memorable, and highly noticeable. Their unique eyes might have made them a more attractive mate, ensuring their genes and the blue-eyed glitch were passed on. Another, more debated idea is the vitamin D hypothesis. In the low-light, often overcast climates of northern Europe, less melanin in the skin and eyes might have allowed for more efficient absorption of UV radiation, boosting the synthesis of essential vitamin D. What started as a random coding error in our DNA may have become a subtle evolutionary advantage in the cold, dark north. Brown eyes. Before the glitch, before the scattering of light, there was the original design, the default setting. Brown eyes aren't an illusion, they are a fortress. They are what eyes were built to be in a world of brutal, unfiltered sunlight. Imagine our earliest ancestors on the African savanna. There's no shade, no sunglasses, just a relentless sun that bleaches the sky white. In this environment, vision is life. A moment of blindness from glare is the difference between spotting a lion in the grass and becoming its lunch. Blue eyes would have been a death sentence. Brown eyes are packed with melanin, specifically a dense concentration of the dark pigment eumelanin. Unlike the empty stroma of a blue eye that scatters light, the melanin-rich stroma of a brown eye is a photon trap. It absorbs almost all wavelengths of light that enter it, from long-wave reds to short-wave blues. This absorption does two critical things. First, it prevents the blinding glare that would wash out vision in bright conditions. Second, it acts as a biological shield, protecting the delicate retina at the back of the eye from the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation. This isn't an aesthetic choice. It was a non-negotiable piece of survival hardware. For early humans, brown eyes weren't just common. They were the only model that worked. Anything less got you out-competed, out-hunted, and erased from the gene pool. Today, over 70% of the world's population still carries this ancestral trait, making it by far the most common eye color. The shade of brown from a light honey to a dark, almost black coffee simply depends on the concentration of eumelanin in the iris stroma. The more melanin, the more light is absorbed and the darker the eye appears. But the story doesn't stop with sun protection. Some fascinating, though still debated, research suggests that brown-eyed individuals may have slightly faster reaction times to certain stimuli. The theory is that the high levels of melanin might be linked to more efficient neural pathways. In a survival scenario, the ability to process motion a few milliseconds faster, a flicker in the periphery, the twitch of a predator's tail, could provide a significant edge. In the modern world, maybe it just means you're slightly better at video games or noticing when your boss is walking up behind you. It's a ghost of an evolutionary advantage, a reminder that the color of your eyes was once the most important tool your body had for keeping you alive. Green eyes. If blue eyes are a trick of physics and brown eyes are a biological shield, green eyes are a work of art. They are the rarest of the common colors, found in only about 2% of the global population, and they exist because of a precise and delicate genetic balancing act. They are not a simple mix of blue and brown, but a unique phenomenon all their own. Like blue eyes, green eyes have a very low concentration of melanin in the front layer of the iris. This allows some Rayleigh scattering to occur, creating a background blue hue. But unlike blue eyes, green eyes have a secret ingredient, a small amount of a light brownish-yellow pigment called pheomelanin, sometimes referred to as lipochrome. This isn't the dark eumelanin of brown eyes. It's a lighter, more golden pigment. The magic of green eyes happens when these two elements combine. The blue light scattered by the collagen fibers mixes with the yellowish light reflected by the pheomelanin. Physics tells us that blue and yellow light mixed together produce the color green. So what you perceive as green is actually a multi-layered illusion, a base layer of scattered blue light being filtered through a translucent wash of yellow pigment. This is why green eyes can seem to change color so dramatically. Depending on the lighting, they can shift from a bright emerald to a muddy hazel, or even a grayish blue. A change in the ambient light alters the balance of the scatter and reflection, creating a different visual effect. Genetically, green eyes are a complex puzzle. There isn't a single green eye gene. Instead, they result from a specific combination of mutations in several genes, primarily OCA2 and HERC2, which dial down the production of dark eumelanin, and other genes that allow for the expression of the lighter pheomelanin. This specific genetic cocktail is most common in people of Northern, Central, and Western European descent, with the highest concentration found in Ireland and Scotland, where up to 86% of the population has either blue or green eyes. This geographical clustering suggests the trait arose and became concentrated in ancient European populations, possibly as a result of the same evolutionary pressures, or lack thereof, that allowed blue eyes to flourish. They are a testament to genetic drift and the beautiful, unpredictable outcomes of random mutation. Amber eyes. Amber eyes are where things start to get strange. Often mistaken for hazel or light brown, true amber eyes are entirely different. They are solidly and uniformly golden, with a fiery, almost metallic copper or yellow hue that seems to glow from within. They are incredibly rare, occurring in an estimated 0.01% of the population, and they are so striking they often don't look real. They belong more in fantasy novels than on human faces. The secret to their glow lies in a pigment we've already met, pheomelanin, the same yellowish pigment found in green eyes. But where green eyes have only a little, amber eyes are flooded with it. The iris contains a very high concentration of pheomelanin and almost no dark eumelanin at all. This abundance of yellow pigment completely overpowers any blue light scattering that might occur. Instead of a mix, you get a pure, undiluted reflection of this golden brown lipochrome. The light enters the eye and bounces off this dense wall of yellow pigment, creating the intense, luminous, and strikingly uniform color. Unlike blue eyes, which trace back to a single ancestor, amber eyes have no single origin point. They appear sporadically in populations across the globe, from South America to Eastern Europe to Asia. This suggests it's not a single ancestral trait, but a rare genetic outcome that can occur independently when the right combination of genes dials eumelanin way down while cranking pheomelanin way up. Because of their rarity and their resemblance to the eyes of predators like wolves, eagles, and owls, animals that also have high concentrations of lipochrome in their irises, amber eyes have been surrounded by folklore and mystique for centuries. They're often called wolf eyes, and in many cultures they were believed to be a sign of a supernatural connection or wild, untamable spirit. While the explanation is purely biological, it's hard to deny their primal, captivating effect. They are a rare glimpse into a different kind of human coloration, one that feels ancient and animalistic. Hazel eyes. Hazel eyes are chaos in its most beautiful form. They are not one color, but a miniature swirling galaxy of greens, browns, and golds, a color that refuses to be defined. They're famous for their ability to change color, appearing more green in one light and more brown in another. This isn't the trick of your imagination, it's a real-time battle between physics and pigment happening inside the iris. Hazel eyes occur when there's a moderate amount of melanin in the iris stroma, not enough to make them fully brown, but too much to be blue or green. Crucially, this melanin is often not distributed evenly. Typically, there's a higher concentration of brown eumelanin clustered around the pupil, which then fades into flecks of yellow pheomelanin towards the outer edge. The color-shifting magic comes from how this uneven landscape of pigment interacts with light. In bright, direct light, the brown melanin absorbs more light, making the brown tones dominant and the eyes appear darker, more brownish. But in dimmer, indirect light, two things happen. First, the pupil dilates, covering some of the central brown pigment. Second, the lower light levels allow the Rayleigh scattering effect in the less pigmented outer parts of the iris to become more prominent. This scattering creates a bluish hue that mixes with the flecks of yellow pheomelanin, making the outer parts of the iris appear intensely green. The result is an eye that can look dramatically different depending on the time of day, the weather, or even the color of the shirt someone is wearing. Genetically, hazel eyes are one of the most complex colorations. Like green eyes, there's no single hazel gene. They're the product of multiple genes interacting, a polygenic trait that results in this specific, moderate, and often patchy deposition of melanin. They're most common in European descent, but can be found in populations worldwide. Hazel eyes are the ultimate genetic wildcard, a beautiful testament to the fact that sometimes nature's most stunning creations aren't the result of a perfect plan, but of a gloriously unpredictable mess.
Gray eyes are perhaps the most enigmatic of all. They are one of the rarest eye colors, found in less than 1% of the population, and like blue eyes, they contain no pigment of their own color. In fact, they are technically a variation of blue eyes, but with a crucial physical difference that changes everything. Genetically, gray eyes are the result of the same low melanin blueprint as blue eyes. The stroma is essentially empty. However, the structure of the stroma itself is different. In gray eyes, the collagen fibers are thought to be larger or arranged more densely. This subtle change in the physical structure alters the way light scatters. Instead of the Rayleigh scattering seen in blue eyes, which preferentially scatters short wavelength blue light, gray eyes are believed to cause a different phenomenon called me scattering. Me scattering happens when the scattering particles, in this case the collagen deposits, are larger. Unlike Rayleigh scattering, me scattering affects all wavelengths of light, reds, greens, and blues, more or less equally. When all the colors of the visible spectrum are scattered and reflected back at once, our brains don't perceive any single color. We perceive it as white, or in this case, gray. The smoky, stone-like appearance of a gray eye is the result of all light being reflected back out, uncolored and unfiltered. It's like looking at a cloud or fog, which also get their color from me scattering off water droplets. This is why gray eyes can also appear to shift in color, sometimes looking blue, green, or even hazel. The perceived color is incredibly sensitive to external lighting conditions, which can cause subtle variations in which wavelengths are most prominent. They are most common in northern and eastern Europe, particularly around the Baltic Sea, and are often seen as one of the most mysterious and intense eye colors, a visual quirk of physics that turns the iris into a mirror of flat, neutral light.
Red and violet eyes. True red eyes in humans are real, but they are not the stuff of vampires and demons. They are the result of extreme genetic conditions, severe forms of albinism. Albinism is a condition characterized by a complete or near-complete lack of melanin pigment throughout the body. In the eye, this means the iris is essentially transparent. It has no pigment to absorb or scatter light. When light passes through a colorless albiro iris, it doesn't reflect off collagen or get absorbed by melanin. It passes straight through, illuminates the back of the eye, and bounces off the fundus, which is rich in blood vessels. The light that reflects back out is red, for the simple reason that it is lit up by the color of blood. It's the same principle as the red eye effect in flash photography, but it's happening constantly in normal light. In some cases of albinism, a very faint amount of pigment might be present, where a bluish scattering effect might still occur in the stroma. When this faint blue is combined with the strong red reflection from the back of the eye, the result can be a stunning violet or lavender hue. This is the likely explanation for Elizabeth Taylor's famously violet eyes. She wasn't an albino, but she had a rare combination of very deep dark blue eyes and a physical structure that allowed for a strong red light reflection from her retina to be visible. The mix of the blue iris color and the reflected red light created the illusion of violet. So, while true red is a sign of albinism, the legendary violet eye is a rare trick of light, a perfect storm of pigment, structure, and reflection.
Heterochromia. Every now and then, the genetic instructions for eye color get scrambled, resulting in one of the most striking human variations, heterochromia, or having two different colored eyes. It's a rare condition in humans, affecting less than 1% of the population, but it's a fascinating window into how eye color develops. There are three main types. Complete heterochromia is the most dramatic, where one iris is a completely different color from the other, one blue, one brown, for instance. Sectorial heterochromia is when only a patch or slice of one iris is a different color. And central heterochromia is when there's an inner ring of color around the pupil that is different from the outer color of the iris. Most cases are congenital, meaning a person is born with it. It's usually a harmless genetic quirk, a benign mutation that causes an uneven distribution of melanin between the two eyes. During fetal development, the genes that control pigment production might get expressed differently in each eye, leading to a mismatched pair. It can also be a symptom of certain rare genetic syndromes, like Waardenburg syndrome. However, heterochromia isn't always something you're born with. It can be acquired later in life. An injury to the eye, inflammation, certain types of eye drops, or diseases like glaucoma can damage the iris or disrupt melanin production, causing the color of one eye to change over time. So if you suddenly notice your eyes are starting to mismatch, it's not a superpower developing. It's a reason to see a doctor. While often just a beautiful genetic anomaly, it can sometimes be a signal that something else is going on. Black eyes. True black eyes, like a pupil with no surrounding iris, do not exist in humans. What we call black eyes are actually just the darkest possible shade of brown. The color is so saturated with dark eumelanin that it absorbs virtually all visible light that hits it, making it nearly impossible to distinguish the iris from the pupil in normal lighting. This is the brown eye's sun-blocking mechanism cranked up to its absolute maximum. The concentration of eumelanin in the stroma is so dense that it functions as a near-perfect light sink. Light goes in, gets absorbed, and almost nothing comes back out. This provides the highest possible level of protection against harsh sunlight and UV radiation, which is why this trait is most common in people of African, East Asian, and Southeast Asian descent, whose ancestors evolved in the most sun-intensive equatorial regions of the world. Under extremely bright, direct light, like that from a flashlight or an ophthalmoscope, the true color can be revealed. You might see the faint underlying brown or even a reddish hint as a tiny amount of light manages to reflect off the pigment and the underlying blood vessels. But in everyday conditions, they appear as deep, opaque pools of black. They are not a separate color, but the ultimate expression of the original human blueprint, an eye perfectly and uncompromisingly adapted to a world of brilliant light. Eye rings. Finally, we zoom in on the subtle details, the rings that frame the iris and send hidden messages. First, there's the limbal ring, the dark circle that separates the colored iris from the white sclera. In children and young adults, this ring is often thick, dark, and well-defined. As we age, it tends to fade and become less distinct. Subconsciously, we seem to know this. Studies have shown that both men and women perceive faces with prominent limbal rings as being younger, healthier, and more attractive. It's a subtle, unconscious signal of youth and vitality. A strong limbal ring signifies a healthy cornea and a clear separation of the eye's anatomy, a biological advertisement of good health. But there is another, more ominous ring, a golden brown or greenish ring that forms on the outer edge of the cornea, just in front of the iris. This is a Kayser-Fleischer ring, and it is not a feature of beauty, but a major red flag for a serious genetic disorder called Wilson's disease. People with this disease have a faulty gene that prevents their body from properly metabolizing copper. The metal builds up to toxic levels in the body, particularly in the liver, brain, and, revealingly, the eyes. The distinctive ring is literally a deposit of excess copper that has accumulated in the cornea. It is often one of the first and most visible signs of the disease, an urgent message from the eye that the body's internal chemistry has gone dangerously wrong. It's a stark reminder that the eyes are not just windows to the soul. They are windows into our biology, our history, and our health, displaying everything from our genetic glitches to the secret signals of our well-being.